So I'm going to go back and teach percents. I'm going to teach percents today as a method using proportions. If you're awesome at percents and never get anything wrong, you don't have to change the way you do it to get it right. What I've developed through the years is a method to teach percents that allows you to find any missing portion of the proportion, that is two equal fractions with one value missing. And it's a rule called Chons Rule from years ago. I got this from a student when I was teaching high school. And I was doing proportions, and Sean said, no, Mr. K, you don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is multiply the two diagonal numbers and divide by the third number. And I heard what he said, I tried it, and it always worked, and I tried to figure out why. And what it does is it results in the same thing as cross multiplying. Like this would be 20 times a equals 5 times 16. The two that would get multiplied together would be 5 times 16, creating the 80 that we would get. And his division by the third number, the number that's diagonal from the variable, would cause us to get the right answer, no matter where we're missing our part. And what happens is, in reality, what you would do here is multiply both sides by 20, and you would come up with something that also has the answer to it, right? We could get here 4a equals 16 and solve that, also get the answer. Now what I'm going to do is show you that Chons Rule in action, right? I'll write Chons Rule over here because some people have never heard it before, but what I do is I use it as a way to rapidly get through a proportion missing only one of the four values. And therefore, if I had a group years ago that didn't have a calculator among them, I could say, okay, which number do I divide by? And I could tell they had set up a proper proportion in order to solve for the answer they were looking for. If they gave me the wrong one, then they hadn't. And there are three numbers that you might divide by, only one is correct. So 2/3 of the time, random guessing will get it wrong. Doing it right, of course, 100%. Chons Rule is number one, multiply the two diagonal numbers. That is two numbers that are both numbers diagonally across the equal sign. So you will have that every time. If you're missing one variable, two of the numbers will be diagonal from each other. And divide by the third number. And what happened when he showed me this is, of course, he didn't know why it worked, but he knew it was easy to remember for him. And so he did that, and he remembered it over a summer, which is, somewhat of a miracle, the way some people forget stuff over the summer. He nailed these all the time, quickly and accurately. So I thought that was pretty good, and then I researched and realized it got the same results as you would by cross multiplying and then going back and dividing by the coefficient of your variable. So it's perfect. And this solves proportions. And therefore, I'm going to go through and solve proportions and get their answers. If you use another method that consistently, and by consistently, I mean always, not like, oh no, that other one's hard, then we're good. But if you get a situation that I'll point out a little later, where you have trouble with a percent because it's the, quote, hard kind of percent, then this will get you through that as well. So let me show you what happens here. According to Chons Rule, here a is going to equal the 5 and the 16 get multiplied, and we're going to divide by the 20. Here are the diagonals. 5 and 16 are diagonal numbers. 20 is the third number. 80 over 20, you get 4. Now, we're looking for b. Of course, this is always made up of 4 over 5 equals 16 over 20. That's all four of these are the same, but looking for different pieces and showing Chons Rule to hold up in all cases. So b equals, I need to multiply the 4 times the 20. It doesn't matter the order of those two, but they must be on top. The key is divide by 16. So you're going to get 80, but you're going to divide by 16, and this time you'll get 5. So c, diagonal 20 and 4. So if I multiply the 20 by the 4 and divide here by 5, I'll get 16. And 16 does belong in each of those. And finally d, I'm going to multiply 5 by 16. Those two will make 80, whichever order they're in, and divide by 4. Get me 20. So that's Chons Rule. And so I'm going to use that to get through each of the proportions that I set up. Okay, the proportions that I set up can be set up with either fraction on the left or right-hand side. They can also be set up with both fractions that I put on the board as their reciprocals. They still will have this ability of a proportion to find the right answer. So You don't have to say, wait, how come you got that on top? I got this other one on the left, or I got that on the bottom and this other one on the bottom. Will I get the right answer? The key is that we can cut through it if you can determine which of those three numbers will be the one you divide by. Then your proportion is set up in a way that is proper without having to match mine letter for letter and spot for spot. So percent means over 100 or of 100. Per means of, and cent means 100. Dollars and cents, centuries, 100. So any percent goes over 100. So the word percent means over 100 for our use. It could also be of 100, out of 100. You know, if you have 30%, 30 of 100 people, 30 over 100 will make it. Some people put that as 30%, they automatically make it 0.30. What they did was divide by 100. They say, I just moved the decimal. You didn't just move the decimal, you moved it based on orders of magnitude, and you moved it twice, because 100 is made up of 2 tens, and we are in base 10. And I think you know why we're base 10. It's because if you didn't lose any fingers or grow any extras, you have 10 fingers. And that's why we have base 10. They could have had a different number system if we had different counts on our hands, but here we are. Now to find any percent, using the proportion set up, percent over 100 equals is over of. So the percent always goes over 100. So this will not change. That will always be 100. But of the three things that are percent, is, and of, you must know 2 of them in order to have a problem that we can solve. So number 1 is you set up, right, as it says right there, you're going to fill that up. How? By doing this. You're going to, quote, circle keywords from the ends. Do not touch the middle, even though you could. You don't touch the middle when you're deciding how you're going to work that out. You're going to circle starting at the beginning of your phrase. Over here I have 84 is what percent of 50? What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the 84, the very first thing, and I'm going to turn it back around when I hit a keyword. Is a keyword, of is a keyword, and percent is a keyword. Then I'm going to go to the back, and I'm going to take 50 and back around to see that the first keyword I hit is of, and I'll wind up with circles for each of those. So let's take a look at how that goes in just a little while. Number 3, solve the proportion. And then the way to check it, which is of course optional, and that is if the percent is greater than 100, so I'm not going to say over 100, it's greater than 100, then the new number is larger. That's what I go with. There's more to it that you can think of, but if your percent is over 100, the number you made is larger than the old number. The is will be larger when you're over 100%. The is will be smaller than the old of number when you're below 100%. So let's look at some of these happening here. I'll bring some colors over here. And I want to show you what I mean by circling from the ends. Okay. Here I am. Starting at the beginning, I'm looking for is, of, or percent, and as I go forward, it's not really a circle, of course, it's more like an oval. But I have what is. And I go to the end where I see my 70, and I work backwards, and I find that 70 goes with of. And that makes sure that I don't think is goes with 30. Okay? So you're like, oh, it's obvious, 30 goes with percent. It's not obvious to everyone, but if you circle from the ends, it's clear that is goes with what, and of goes with 70. And in those places, we will place those numbers in here. And as you can tell on that one, 30 will go where the percent is. The one that's uncircled is also going to be helpful to help me get these things placed. 84 is, skip over the middle, go to the back, 50 goes with of. It's not because they're big or small, it's because The is or of relationships will tell you which one is the original. You get the original, it's something that you make up of the original. Now if I go for this, at the beginning I do nail the 90%. Percent is the first word I hit going left to right. Start at the back, go right to left. Where I see the 306, and I go on back until it hits is. Okay, so I want to solve each of these problems. And how am I going to do that? Well, if I set up percent over 100 equals is over of, in each case, and it's always 100. Percent is what we call always over 100. So the 100 never changes. That's why you need two more to place, because the 100's already locked into position. So on this one, what is? That means I don't know the is. Percent over 100 equals is over of. People are used to using X. You might use W, N, or P, or whatever you want to do there, but I put an X there. Okay, moving across, I come to this 30%. Percent goes over 100. 30%, 30. Okay, and of 70. It's the only spot left. It says of 70. Percent over 100 equals is over of, and that is where the 70 should go. Set up another one. 84 is what percent of 50? 84 is. Percent over 100 is. 84 goes right there. What percent? That means I don't know the percent. So when I immediately encounter the percent over 100, I can put my X there. And I'm left with of 50. Percent over 100 equals is over of, and of course that's where the 50 goes. 90% of what is 306? 90%, percent right away, drops in there. Of what? This means I don't know the of value. Percent over 100 equals is over of, put an X there. And is 306. Percent over 100 equals is with 306 over of. Now we'll go find out what each one of these values turns out to be. Grab a calculator. So I've done this, which I call circle keywords from the ends. That's how I set a percent over 100 equals is over of. These percent is and of are left blank, known to be filled with two numbers and an X. Circling the keywords tells you which goes where. Solve the proportion. All right, here's what Sean would tell me to do. He would say X equals, diagonally I got 30 and 70, so I go 30 times 70 over the 100. What I could say in a class that didn't have calculators is which do I divide by, and you should be able to tell me 100. That's 2100 over 100, and that's 21. Now we're going to see if that is correct. 30% is less than 100%. That means the number for is should be smaller because it's less than 100% would get me. So the is was 21, the old of is 70. I went in the right direction. This one, it's set up here with the X equals. Now going by Chons rule, the first thing I might ask is which do I divide by? That would be 50, diagonally from the X. I need to multiply the 100 and the 84. So I'm going to get 8400 over 50, and you can grab your calculator as needed. That's 168. Now somewhere in here I have the percent. I just found the percent to be 168. Did I do that correctly? If the percent is greater than 100, the new number is bigger than the old one. The new 84 for is larger than the old 50. I again went in the right direction. I didn't set it up upside down, a big mistake that people make at times. Finally, this one. If you look, 90 is diagonally across from the X. So we're ready to divide by 90. So I could put the 90 down here. And I have 306 and 100 as the two numbers that need to be multiplied together. Okay, and when I did that one out, I found 340. Now this is 90%, so it's not bigger. The new number is not bigger. 306 should not be bigger than what I get down there. That I don't know yet. 306 should not be bigger than the X. So 306 should be smaller than my 340. It is, and we've gotten it correct. So that's how we do percents. And I'll wrap this up here.